Ministers, the Government's response to COVID-19 to date has been nothing short of seismic, as Ireland borrows in the billions to protect against the worst outcomes of the pandemic. Recent positive news regarding development of a vaccine is pointing the way to exiting from the coronavirus, but the lessons of lockdown and its resulting effects will last for a very long time. Our social fabric has suffered intense change and damage, which can be seen in the present and future challenges to business, to health access, to livelihoods, to mental stability. We have long known of the stigma associated with mental health issues, but I doubt if anyone could have predicted the scale or range of the problem, or how isolation, financial hardship, addiction, loneliness, antisocial behaviour, employment uncertainty, or damage to personal esteem could result in mental health challenges so varied and so intense for so many. In truth, our mental health services have always been challenged in trying to look after the chronically unwell, and this has been further exacerbated by significant underfunding in services and in capital allocations for many years. We may not be able to fully quantify the numbers of those suffering mental duress, but we know many of the situations involved. The cases where mental breakdown, depression or suicidal ideation are occurring. The bachelor farmer who can go weeks without interacting with a single human being. The semi-skilled worker realising his well-paid job will never return. The business start-up that has failed and left the promoters with significant personal debt. The under-30s who find themselves unable to provide bankable employment such that they can get onto any step of the property ladder. The couples who wish to undertake IVF to begin their family but have no realistic chance of saving the money, thus denying them the gift of parenthood. And mostly the socially vulnerable, those who have started with a poor hand of cards, many whom are targeted for drug addiction and migrate into homelessness and endless social exclusion. All of these situations have not been created by COVID exclusively, but they are being exacerbated by it. The State's response to these challenges must be as fulsome as was the strategy plan to devise to combat the coronavirus. Point 1 of that plan recognised the importance of individual life, regardless of age, and sought to protect it by deploying vast revenues to meet the challenge. The epidemic of mental illness in this country must also be prioritised and similarly targeted. A two-track approach to deal with the mental fallout of COVID-19 should be considered, in my opinion. For many, this can be achieved through integration with primary care, GP community and social care concerns, and NGOs as well as social security supports. For those suffering more severe mental illness, ongoing institutional supports are needed, and capital assets must be expended to meet this need. In my own city of Waterford, our regional mental health acute services consist of a single facility of 44 beds with no access for children beyond emergency overnight admission. This in a region of 600,000 people in one of the 9 national Model 4 category hospitals in the country. Underfunding has been a constant refrain for decades in our South East hospital services. We've had years of promises for capital asset upgrades to our adult mental health services and to providing a continuing child psychiatry access. To date, these promises remain hollow and unfulfilled. Our regional group motion today calls for government to protect our population's mental health. It makes many calls on government to prioritise, to build, to implement and to deliver. It calls on government to build our human resource capacity to deliver on mental health and social care. It asks for mental health to be prioritised as a central part of government's continuing response to COVID-19. It asserts the need for government to re-establish a dedicated lead for mental health within the HSE executive function, and to ensure that mental health is part of the universal health coverage by including care for mental health, neurological and substance use disorders. Most of all, it calls on government to act based on one core understanding. We cannot value that which we do not respect. We cannot respect that which we do not value. It is time for government to fully value the work of our mental health services and to show due respect to those who require them. We cannot solve the national problems of mental health until we understand and adopt the position that we have taken to combating COVID-19. That is understanding we are all in this together. We need a new, dynamic, coordinated response, and I would argue that the basis of such a response is contained in our regional group motion, and I commend it to the House for approval.